The blood was getting cold now. Nara could feel it sticking to her gray fur as she lay beneath the giant tree roots. Each breath hurt more than the last one. The baby inside her belly kicked weakly, as if it knew something was wrong. 3 days ago, her pack had driven her away. 3 days ago, they had thrown stones and howled curses at her back as she ran into the dark forest. The pack leader Bjorn had spoken the words that still rang in her ears like a death song. "You carry shame in your belly," he had snarled, his yellow eyes full of hate. "You are no longer Valkyrie. You are nothing." Nara closed her eyes and remembered better times. She had once been a respected hunter in the Red Claw pack. Her nose could track prey across 3 valleys. Her claws could bring down a running deer in full sprint. The younger wolves looked up to her. The elders nodded with approval when she passed by. That was before she met him. Before she fell in love with someone who was not Valkyrie. The father of her unborn child was from the Stellar people, a race that traveled between the stars in great metal ships. His name was Kaisen, and he had skin like smooth stone and eyes like deep water. When he smiled, tiny lights danced under his skin. The Stellar people were traders and explorers, not warriors like the Valkyrie. Their love was forbidden. The old laws said that Valkyrie blood must stay pure. Any wolf who mixed with other races would be cast out forever. Their children would be called demons and monsters. But Nara had not cared about the old laws when she looked into Kaisen's eyes. She had not thought about pack rules when he held her under the 3 moons. Love had made her forget everything else. Now Kaisen was gone, returned to the stars with his trading ship. He did not even know about the baby, and Nara was dying alone in a place where even the scavenger birds would not come. She could hear her own heartbeat getting slower. The baby had stopped moving completely now. Maybe this was better. Maybe it was mercy that they would both die before the pack hunters found them. A stick broke somewhere nearby. Nara opened her eyes but did not lift her head. She was too weak to run and too tired to fight. If Bjorn had sent trackers to finish her off, she would meet death with whatever dignity she had left. The footsteps came closer. They were too light to be Valkyrie paws, too steady to be a wild animal. Nara caught a strange scent on the wind, something clean and sharp, like metal and soap. A shadow fell across her face. She looked up and saw something that made no sense. It was a human. Nara had seen humans before, but only from a distance. They lived in their research camp on the other side of the Great Valley. The Valkyrie packs avoided them mostly, and the humans seemed to prefer it that way. This one was male, with dark hair and kind eyes behind clear glass circles. He wore the brown clothes that all the human researchers wore. The human knelt down beside her. His movements were careful and slow, like he was approaching a hurt animal that might bite, which, Nara supposed, was exactly what he was doing. "Easy there," the human said in broken Valkyrie language. His accent was terrible, but Nara could understand him. "I am not going to hurt you." Nara tried to speak, but only a weak growl came out. The human reached into a bag he carried and pulled out a metal bottle. He opened it and held it near her mouth. "Water," he said. "Clean water." The liquid touched her lips, and Nara could not stop herself from drinking. It was cool and pure, better than anything she had tasted in days. The human waited patiently while she drank, then gently moved the bottle away. "My name is Hyun," he said, still speaking in his clumsy Valkyrie. "I am a doctor. I study animals and plants." Nara stared at him. Why was a human helping her? His own kind usually stayed far away from Valkyrie problems. And why did he speak their language at all, even badly? Hyun looked at her wounds with the careful eyes of someone who knew about healing. He made soft clicking sounds with his tongue, the way Valkyrie mothers did to calm frightened pups. "You are hurt very bad," he said, "but I think I can help you. If you let me." Nara wanted to tell him to go away. She wanted to die alone with some pride left, but the baby kicked inside her again, weak but alive. And she found herself nodding. Hyun smiled and began pulling things from his bag, bottles and tubes and white cloth. His hands were small compared to Valkyrie claws, but they moved with sure purpose. "I have been watching your pack," he said as he worked. "From far away, I try to learn about your people, your language, your ways." He began cleaning her wounds with something that stung but felt good at the same time. Nara gritted her teeth and tried not to whimper. "I know you are cast out," Hyun continued. "I saw what happened 3 days ago. I followed you." Nara's eyes widened. He had been tracking her all this time. Why? Hyun seemed to read her thoughts. "I wanted to help," he said simply. "In my heart, I know it is wrong to leave someone to die alone." He worked in silence for a while, bandaging cuts and giving her medicine that made the pain less sharp. The sun was getting low in the sky, painting everything orange and red. Then Hyun did something that made Nara's world stop. He leaned close to her ear and whispered a single word, a name, her true name, the secret name given to her at birth, known only to family and the closest pack members. "Nara Vethkorim," he whispered. Nara stared at him in shock. That name had not been spoken aloud in years. Even her own pack called her only by her common name. How could this human stranger know the words that meant born under the hunting star? Heian saw her expression and nodded slowly. I listened very careful, he said. I learned many things. Your people have beautiful names, beautiful words. For the first time in 3 days, Nara felt something other than pain and despair. She felt wonder. This small human had taken the time to learn, not just her language, but the deep parts of it, that even young Valkyrie did not know. Why, she managed to whisper. Heian finished wrapping her largest wound and sat back on his heels. Because, he said, every living thing deserves to have their name remembered. The 3 moons were starting to rise. In the distance, Nara could hear the evening hunt songs of her former pack. They sounded very far away. Now Hun helped her sit up against the tree trunk. Can you travel a little? He asked. I have a safe place warm. With food, Nara nodded. She was still weak, but the human's medicine had given her strength. More than that, for the first time since her exile, she did not feel completely alone. As Hyun helped her to her feet, Nara realized something important. This human had not just saved her life. He had given her back her name, and with it, a small piece of her soul that she thought was lost forever. Maybe her story was not over yet. Maybe the baby would live to see the stars after all. The cave was warmer than Nara had expected. Hyun had led her through the dark forest for what felt like hours, stopping often to let her rest. Now she lay on soft blankets inside a hidden shelter that the human had prepared. I found this place 2 months ago, Hunan explained as he lit a small fire. The Valkyrie do not come here. Too many strange smells from the mineral springs. Nara sniffed the air. He was right. The cave smelled of sulfur and iron, scents that most Valkyrie found unpleasant. But to her, it meant safety. Her former pack would never track her here. Hyun pulled out more supplies from several bags stored in the cave corners. Food, water, medical, tools, and books written in human language. He had been planning this for a long time. You knew I would need help, Nara said. It was not a question. Hyun nodded as he prepared a bowl of soup over the fire. I saw the signs. The way your pack treated you in the last weeks. The way they stopped including you in hunts. I knew they would cast you out soon, and you prepared for it. Yes, Heian stirred the soup and did not look at her. In my world, we have a saying. When you see someone drowning, you do not ask why they fell in the water. You just pull them out. Nara watched him work. His hands were steady now, not shaking like they had been in the forest. Here, in his prepared space, he moved with quiet confidence. Why do you know so much about my people? She asked. Hyun was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. I came to this moon to study life. Plants, animals, weather patterns. But your people... The Valkyrie are more interesting than any plant or animal. He handed her the bowl of soup. It smelled good, like herbs and meat. I started watching from far away, taking notes, learning your language from listening to your songs and stories. Nara sipped the soup. It was delicious and warming. Most humans fear us. Some do, Heian agreed, but I lost my family in an accident 3 years ago. My wife and daughter died when their transport ship crashed. After that, I stopped fearing death. I stopped fearing many things. The pain in his voice was clear. Nara understood that kind of loss. She had lost her pack, her home, her future, but Heian had lost even more. I am sorry, she said. Heian smiled sadly. Thank you, but that is why I came here to find something new, to learn about life I had never seen before. Your people live with such passion, such strong connections to each other. Even when you are angry, even when you fight, there is life in it. He poured himself some soup and sat across from her. Humans sometimes feel very alone, even when we are together. But Valkyrie, you are always part of something bigger. A pack, a family, a purpose. Not me, Nara said bitterly. Not anymore. No, Hyun said quietly. But that is what makes your situation so wrong, so cruel. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. The fire crackled and the mineral springs bubbled softly in the deeper parts of the cave. Outside, the night sounds of the forest continued their ancient songs. Tell me about the father, Hyun said eventually. Nara stiffened. Why? Because I think he is important to understanding your child, and your child is important to understanding you. Nara set down her empty bowl. His name was Kai-sun. He came from the stellar people. They are traders who travel between worlds. I know of them, Heian said. They visited our research station once. Peaceful people, very different from humans. Very different from Valkyrie too, Nara said. They do not understand pack bonds or territory fights. They think all beings should be free to love who they choose. And you believe that? Nara touched her belly, where the baby grew. When I looked at him, yes, he had such gentle eyes. He never raised his voice, never showed anger. He said that love was the same in every language, on every world. What happened to him? His ship finished trading and left. He did not know about the baby. Nara's voice grew sad. Maybe that is better. If he knew, he might try to come back. That would only bring more trouble. Heian leaned forward. Or he might help. His people have advanced medicine. They might know how to help hybrid children grow strong and healthy. The pack says hybrid children are cursed. They say they will be weak and sick, rejected by both races. The pack says many things, Hyun replied. But what does your heart say? Nara was quiet for a long moment. Then she placed both hands on her belly. My heart says this child is perfect. When it moves, I feel ... joy. Pure joy. How can something that brings such happiness be cursed? Hyun smiled. Then trust your heart. Over the next several days, Hyun cared for Nara with the patience of a devoted healer. He changed her bandages twice daily, prepared nutritious meals, and made sure she got enough rest. But more than that, he talked with her. They discussed everything. The differences between human and Valkyrie cultures, the beauty of the forest around them, the movements of the stars overhead, the growing baby that kicked stronger each day. Who told her about his research, about the things he had learned by watching her people. He spoke of Valkyrie hunting techniques with genuine admiration. He described their howling songs as beautiful music. He treated her culture with respect, even while disagreeing with their treatment of her. In return, Nara taught him proper Valkyrie pronunciation. She showed him how to read the forest signs that warned of danger or promised good hunting. She shared stories of the old days, when her grandmother's grandmother roamed these same woods. Your people were not always so strict about bloodlines, Hyun observed one evening as they sat by the fire. What do you mean? Hyun pulled out a notebook filled with his careful handwriting. I have been listening to your oldest stories, the ones the elders tell during the long winter nights. Many of them mentioned Valkyrie who were different. Some had strange abilities, some looked different from others. Nara frowned. Those are just stories, maybe, but stories often contain old truths. I think your people were once more open to diversity. That is impossible. The law of pure blood is ancient. Is it, Hyun asked gently, or is it just very old? There is a difference. He showed her his notes, pointing to specific stories he had recorded. Tales of Valkyrie with silver fur instead of gray. Stories of pack members who could speak to birds or run faster than the wind. Legends of wolves who mated with star spirits and produced children with special gifts. These stories all came from your own elders, Hyun said. They remember when being different was not a curse, but a blessing. Nara stared at the notebook. If what Hyun suggested was true, then her exile was based on a lie. Her child was not an abomination, but a return to older, better ways. Why would the packs forget this? She asked. Because fear is easier than acceptance, Hyun said, because controlling others requires making them afraid of change. That night, as Nara lay in her blankets listening to the human's steady breathing, she felt something new growing inside her, alongside the baby. Hope. Maybe Hyun was right. Maybe her child would not be cursed, but blessed. Maybe the old ways were better than the new ones. And maybe, just maybe, one small human and one outcast wolf could change the world. On the 7th day in the cave, Hyun showed Nara something that changed everything. He had been gone most of the morning, telling her he needed to check his equipment at the research station. When he returned, he carried a metal box that hummed softly with hidden power. What is that? Nara asked, watching him set the box carefully on a flat rock. A translator and recorder, Hyun explained. Very advanced human technology. It can take old languages and make them clear to understand. He opened the box and pulled out a small crystal that glowed with blue light. I found something yesterday. Something important, but I needed this machine to be sure I understood it correctly. Nara moved closer, curious despite her growing tiredness. The baby had been very active lately, making it hard for her to sleep or rest comfortably. Hyun touched the crystal, and suddenly the cave filled with sound. Not normal sound, but something deeper, richer, like voices speaking from very far away or very long ago. This is Valkyrie language, Nara said in surprise. But it sounds different, older, very old, Hyun agreed. I recorded this from stone carvings I found in the deep valley. Carvings that your people made thousands of years ago. The ancient voices continued speaking. Nara could understand most of it, though some words were strange and unfamiliar. They were telling a story, a history. Listen carefully, Hyun said. Tell me what they are saying. Nara closed her eyes and focused on the words. Slowly, the story became clear. They speak of the first pack, she said. The original Valkyrie who came to this world. They say. The pack was made up of many different kinds of wolves. The ancient voices continued, and Nara's eyes grew wide. Some had fur like silver starlight. Others had eyes that glowed, like small suns. Some could run on 2 legs, like humans. Others could speak to the spirits of the forest. She looked at Hyun in amazement. They say all these differences made the pack stronger. Keep listening, Hyun urged. The story told of great hunts where each type of wolf used their special abilities. The star-furred ones could see in complete darkness. The sun-eyed ones could track prey across vast distances. The 2-legged ones could climb trees and cliffs. The spirit speakers could find water and safe paths. They worked together, Nara whispered. All their differences helped the whole pack survive. Then the tone of the ancient story changed. The voices became sad and angry. What happened next? Heian asked gently. Nara listened to the darker part of the tale. The great sickness came. Many wolves died. The survivors were afraid. They thought the sickness came because they had mixed with other kinds of beings. So they made new laws. The purity laws. Heian said. Double quotes. Yes. They said only true Valkyrie could remain. Anyone who looked different or acted different was driven away. Or killed. They said it was the only way to stay safe. The recording ended, leaving the cave in heavy silence. So the fear of mixing blood is not ancient law, Heian said. It came from one terrible time when your people were scared and desperate. Nara stared at the crystal, her mind spinning. Everything she had been taught about Valkyrie history was wrong. The pure blood laws were not sacred traditions passed down from the beginning of time. They were rules made by frightened survivors who did not understand what had really caused their suffering. The sickness was not caused by mixing with other races, she said slowly. No, I studied the geological records of this area. Around the same time as your great sickness, there was a massive volcanic eruption on the far continent. It poisoned the air and water for several years. That is what killed so many Valkyrie. But they blamed the different ones instead. Fear makes people look for someone to blame, Heian said sadly. It is easier to hate what is different than to fight what cannot be seen or understood. Nara felt anger growing in her chest. Her people had been living a lie for thousands of years. They had turned away from their own history, forgotten their own strength, all because of ancient fear and misunderstanding. My child, she said, touching her belly. My child carries the blood of two races, like the old Valkyrie used to welcome. Your child might be exactly what your people need. Heian agreed. A bridge back to who they really are. Over the next few days, Heian shared more of his discoveries. He had found cave paintings showing Valkyrie and other races living peacefully together. He had recorded songs that spoke of star children and dreamwalkers as honored members of packs. He had even found old ritual objects that suggested mixed Valkyrie were once considered blessed, not cursed. Why has no one else found this evidence? Nara asked. Because no one else has been looking, Heian said. Your current leaders benefit from the purity laws. It gives them power over others. They have no reason to search for proof that their laws are wrong. Meanwhile, unknown to them, changes were happening in the world outside their hidden cave. The Red Claw Pack leader had been growing more suspicious with each passing day. Nara's body had never been found. No scavenger birds had been seen circling in the areas where she might have died. Some of the younger pack members were asking uncomfortable questions about why she had been cast out so harshly. She carried an abomination, Bioram reminded them during the evening howl. The old laws are clear. Mixed blood brings weakness and curse. But Teho, a young hunter with questioning eyes, had been listening to the elder stories more carefully lately. He remembered tales his grandmother told of wolves who were different but special. He began to wonder if the old laws were as permanent as Bioram claimed. Bioram noticed Teho's doubts and felt his authority being questioned. This was dangerous. If one wolf started questioning the purity laws, others might follow. The careful order of the pack could collapse. At the human research station, Dr. Yunji had also noticed changes. Her colleague Hyun had been absent for over a week, claiming to be doing field research, but his normal check-in calls had stopped coming. His equipment readings showed he was staying in one location for days at a time, which was unusual for his normal research patterns. Yunji was worried. The moon could be dangerous, especially for humans traveling alone, but she was also curious. Heian had been acting strangely for weeks before his disappearance. Spending long hours studying Valkyrie language recordings and cultural data, she decided to investigate. Back in the cave, Nara was teaching Heian how to move silently through the forest, the way Valkyrie hunters did. In return, he showed her human medical techniques that could help during childbirth. Your people have such advanced knowledge, Nara said, as Hyun explained how human doctors helped mothers during difficult births. Every race has different knowledge, Hyunik replied. That is why mixing cultures makes everyone stronger. Humans, no medicine and technology. Valkyrie, no hunting and survival. The stellar people understand navigation and peaceful trade. Together, all races could help each other. Bioram would never accept such ideas. Maybe not Bioram, Heian agreed. But what about the younger ones? What about wolves, like Teho, who asked questions? Nara considered this. She remembered Teho from her pack days. He was brave and smart, but also thoughtful in ways that sometimes made the older wolves uncomfortable. He might listen, she admitted. If there was proof, there is proof, Heian said, gesturing to his recordings and research. The question is whether we can share it before Bioram silences everyone who might believe it. That night, as Nara lay listening to her baby's strong heartbeat, she made a decision. Her child would not grow up hiding in caves or living as an outcast. Somehow, she would find a way to change her people's minds, even if it meant facing Bioram and the entire Red Claw pack, even if it cost her everything. Dr. Yunji found Hyen's trail on the 10th day. She had spent 3 days searching the forest areas. where his equipment showed the strongest signals. Following broken branches and disturbed earth, she tracked his path through the dense woods like a detective solving a puzzle. When she found the cave entrance hidden behind the mineral springs, she heard voices speaking in the Valkyrie language. One voice was definitely Heian. The other was deeper, rougher, but speaking with careful precision. Yuanji approached slowly, making soft sounds so she would not startle anyone inside. When she rounded the corner into the main cave chamber, she stopped in amazement. Heian sat beside a large gray wolf who was clearly pregnant and clearly injured. They were bent over a collection of recording devices and notebooks, discussing something with intense focus. Heian, Yunji said quietly. Both Heian and the wolf looked up quickly. The wolf's amber eyes were intelligent and wary, but not hostile. Yunji, Heian said, standing up slowly. I can explain. I hope so, Yunji replied, but her voice was more curious than angry. Because this is either the most important xenobiological discovery in decades, or you have completely lost your mind. Heian smiled weakly. Maybe both. He introduced Nara and explained the situation. As he spoke, Yanji's expression changed from confusion to understanding to determination. So, you are saying that Valkyrie culture is based on a historical misunderstanding, she said when Heian finished. Yes, and Nara's child could prove that mixing between races creates strength, not weakness. Youngji looked at Nara with professional interest and human compassion. How are you feeling? When is the baby due? Soon, Nara said in careful human language. Maybe 10 days, maybe less. And the pack that cast you out, they still consider you an enemy. They consider me dead. Nara said grimly, Bjorm hopes I am dead. But if he discovers I am alive, he will try to finish what he started. Hyun completed. Eunji was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then she nodded firmly. Then we need to be ready for him. While the humans planned for possible trouble, that trouble was already getting closer. Had been asking too many questions during the evening hunts. He had started mentioning the old stories that spoke of different kinds of Valkyrie. He had wondered aloud why the pack no longer welcomed diversity like their ancestors. Had Bjorm's patience finally broke during a pack meeting 3 days after Yunji found the cave. Enough, the pack leader snarled when Taeho questioned the purity laws again. You sound like the traitor Nara. Do you also carry corruption in your heart? I carry curiosity. Taeho replied boldly. Is that now forbidden to? Several other young wolves murmured agreement. Bjorm realized that Taeho's questions were spreading doubt through the pack. This could not continue. You will lead a hunting party, Bjorm commanded. You will search the deep forest and find proof that Nara is dead. Bring back her bones, so we can be sure the corruption has ended. Taeho did not want to hunt for Nara's remains, but refusing a direct order from the pack leader would mean exile or death. He gathered 5 other young hunters and set out into the forest. What Bjorm did not know was that Taeho secretly hoped to find Nara alive. If she had survived, maybe she could answer some of the questions that had been troubling him. The hunting party searched for 2 days before they found signs, not bones or death scents, but the lingering traces of Nara's passage. Through the forest, the trail was old but clear to trained Valkyrinoses. She went toward the sulfur springs. One hunter observed. No wolf goes there. Another said, the smell is too strong. Unless she wanted to hide her scent, Taeho said quietly. They followed the trail carefully, growing more excited as it became fresher. When they smelled human scents mixed with Nara's, they became confused. Humans? Why would humans be with an outcast Valkyrie? Taeho did not answer, but his heart began beating faster. If humans were helping Nara, it meant the situation was far more complicated than Bjorm had claimed. They approached the cave area just as the sun was setting. Through the mineral spring mists, they could see the glow of a fire deep inside the hidden entrance. We should go back and report to Bjorm, one hunter suggested. No, Taeho said firmly. We investigate first. I want to know the truth. Inside the cave, Nara suddenly lifted her head and sniffed the air. Valkyrie, she said urgently. Multiple scents. They have found us. Heian and Yunji immediately began gathering their most important equipment. They had prepared for this possibility. How many? Yunji asked. 6, all young hunters. Nara struggled to stand, her pregnancy making movement difficult. I know their scents. Taeho leads them, the one you said might listen to reason. Yes, but he is still bound by pack loyalty. And the others with him might not be as open-minded. Footsteps echoed outside the cave entrance. Heian picked up one of his recording devices, the one containing the ancient Valkyrie history. If we are going to convince them, he said, now is the time to try. Taeho appeared at the cave entrance, followed by his hunting party. All 6 Valkyrie stopped in shock when they saw the scene inside. Nara stood protectively near the fire, her pregnancy obvious and her injuries clearly healing. 2 humans flanked her, not as captors but as allies. Ancient recording equipment glowed softly around them, and the walls were covered with research notes and historical drawings. Nara, Taeho said softly. You are alive. I am alive, she confirmed, and I am not alone. One of the younger hunters bared his teeth at the humans. Traitor, you work with aliens against your own kind. These humans saved my life, Nara replied calmly. They have shown me truths that our pack has forgotten. What truths? Teho asked, stepping forward despite the nervous growls of his companions. Hyun activated the recording device. The ancient Valkyrie voices filled the cave, telling their story of diversity and strength, of different kinds of wolves working together in harmony. As the recording played, Teho's eyes grew wide with recognition. These were the old stories his grandmother had told him, but clearer and more complete than he had ever heard them. When the recording ended, the cave was silent, except for the crackling fire and bubbling springs. This is impossible. One hunter whispered, the purity laws are ancient. Sacred. The purity laws came from fear, Nara said gently. Fear of something our ancestors did not understand. These humans helped me learn the real history. Teho looked at the research materials. At the obvious care the humans had taken to preserve and understand Valkyrie culture. At Nara's healthy appearance, despite her pregnancy, Bioram will not accept this, he said finally. I know, Nara replied. But what do you accept, Teho? What does your heart tell you is true? Before Teho could answer, the sound of many paws on stone echoed through the cave entrance. More Valkyrie were coming. Many more. Bioram had not trusted Teho's hunting party to work alone. He had followed with the pack's strongest warriors, determined to end the threat to his authority once and for all. The real confrontation was about to begin. Bioram entered the cave like a storm of fury and fangs. Behind him came 12 of the Red Claw Pack's fiercest warriors, their yellow eyes blazing with anger and their claws extended for battle. The cave that had been a place of healing and learning suddenly became a battlefield. Traitors, Bioram snarled, his voice echoing off the stone walls. I should have known that where corruption spreads, weakness follows. He looked at Teho and the young hunters who had found the cave first. You were ordered to bring back bones. Instead, you stand with enemies of the pack. They are not enemies, Teho said, though his voice shook slightly. Listen to what they have discovered. The old stories, the real history of our people. Stories, Bioram spat. Lies told by humans who want to weaken us. The pack leader's gaze fixed on Nara, who stood as straight as she could despite her advanced pregnancy. And you, abomination. You should have died cleanly in the forest. Instead, you corrupt others with your presence. I carry life, not corruption, Nara replied with dignity. The same life that flows through all Valkyrie, back to the first pack. The first pack was pure, Bioram growled. Not polluted with alien blood. Hyun stepped forward, holding the recording device. That is not what their own voices say. Listen to the truth your ancestors left behind. Human lies. Valkyrie voices, Hyun corrected firmly. Recorded from stone carvings made by your own people thousands of years ago. He activated the device again. The ancient voices filled the cave, telling their story of diversity and strength. But Bioram refused to listen. Instead, he signaled his warriors to attack. What happened next was chaos. The warrior Valkyrie leaped forward with deadly intent. Yunji activated a sonic device that produced a high-pitched whine, causing several attackers to stumble in confusion. Hyun threw a chemical flare that filled part of the cave with bright light and thick smoke. But the humans' technological advantages were limited in close combat. The Valkyrie warriors were bigger, stronger, and bred for fighting. Teho faced an impossible choice. He could stand with his pack leader and help destroy Nara and the humans, or he could defend beings who had shown him a different vision of what Valkyrie could be. As one of Borm's warriors lunged toward the pregnant Nara, Teho made his decision. He intercepted the attack, his own claws meeting those of his packmate in a shower of sparks against the stone floor. Traitor, the warrior snarled. Truth seeker, Teho replied, pressing his attack. The battle raged through the cave chambers. Hyun and Youngji used their equipment and human ingenuity to stay alive, but they were clearly outmatched. Nara fought with the desperate strength of a mother protecting her unborn child, but her pregnancy made her slow and vulnerable. Then, in the midst of the chaos, something unexpected happened. Nara suddenly cried out in pain and collapsed against the cave wall. The baby was coming. Right now, in the middle of a battle, the fighting stopped as everyone realized what was happening. The child, Nara gasped. It comes now. Bioram saw his opportunity. Kill them all, he ordered. End this corruption before it can spread. But Hyun was already moving to help Nara. I need space, he called out, and clean water. This baby will not wait for your politics to be settled. Youngji began setting up medical equipment with practiced efficiency. Several of the young hunters, including 2 who had come with Teho, moved to form a protective circle around the humans and Nara. Stand aside, Bioram commanded them. No, Teho said firmly. Whatever this child is, it deserves to live. That is the most basic law of the pack. Protect the young. More young hunters joined the protective circle. Bioram realized that his authority was crumbling before his eyes. You choose aliens over your own kind, he accused. We choose life over fear. One of the young hunters replied. Bioram's rage reached a breaking point. If he could not control his pack through authority, he would do it through violence. He prepared to attack Nara directly, intending to kill both mother and child in one strike. But as he lunged forward, Nara gave a final push, and the baby was born. The child emerged into the world with a soft cry that echoed through the cave. Heian quickly cleaned and wrapped the newborn, then held it up for everyone to see. The baby was beautiful. It had the basic shape of a Valkyrie pup, but its fur shimmered with an inner light like its eyes, when they opened, were deep blue like ocean water. Its tiny hands had both Valkyrie claws and the delicate fingers of the stellar people. Every wolf in the cave stared in wonder. This was not the twisted monster that Bjorn had described. This was something new and magical. Abomination, Bjorn whispered, but his voice lacked conviction. Miracle, Taeho countered softly. The baby reached out with one tiny hand toward the nearest Valkyrie, which happened to be one of Bjorn's warriors. When the hardened fighter extended his claw, the baby grasped it with surprising strength. In that moment, something changed in the warrior's eyes. The anger and fear faded, replaced by wonder and protectiveness. It is just a baby, he said in amazement, a perfect baby. Other warriors began to lower their claws. They had come expecting to fight a monster, but instead they found new life that called to their deepest instincts to protect the young. Bjorn saw his support vanishing. In desperation, he made one final attack, not at Nara or the humans, but at the baby itself. If you will not see the danger, I will end it myself, he snarled. But Taeho was ready. He intercepted Bjorn's strike and grappled with the pack leader. In the center of the cave, the two wolves fought with everything they had. Bjorn had experience and ruthless determination. Taeho had youth and the strength that comes from fighting for something you believe in. In the end, it was Bjorn's own rage that defeated him. He became careless in his fury, leaving himself open to a counterattack that sent him crashing against the cave wall. When he tried to rise, half his own warriors blocked his path. Enough, said the warrior who had touched the baby's hand. This ends now. Bjorn looked around the cave and saw that he had lost. Most of his pack now stood with Taeho. The young hunters were openly protective of Nara and her child. Even some of his veteran warriors were questioning their loyalty to him. You will regret this, he said bitterly. When this abomination brings curse and weakness to the pack, you will remember my words. We will remember your fear, Taeho replied, and we will teach our children to be braver than we were. Bjorn gathered the few warriors who still supported him and left the cave in defeat. His reign over the Red Claw pack was over. As peace settled over the cave, Nara held her child close and whispered a name. Jin, she said softly. Your name is Jin. The word meant precious in the old Valkyrie tongue, and as Hyun translated its meaning for Youngji, every wolf present nodded approval. The child was indeed precious. And perhaps, just perhaps, it would help bring all the scattered peoples of the galaxy a little closer together. 3 months later, the forest moon of Talara looked very different. Where once there had been only the human research station and scattered Valkyrie pack territories, now there was something new. A settlement built together by both species. With buildings that combined human technology and Valkyrie craftsmanship, they called it Haven. Narda walked through the settlement's main path, carrying little Jin in a sling across her chest. The baby had grown strong and healthy, her starshimmer, fur catching the sunlight, and her blue eyes bright with curiosity about everything around her. Other children played nearby. Human children, Valkyrie pups, and even a few youngsters from other races whose families had heard about the settlement and come to see this place where different peoples lived in peace. She grows more beautiful every day, said Yunji, joining Nara near the central meeting hall. She grows more curious too, Nara replied with a smile. Yesterday she tried to eat Hyan's research equipment. They laughed together. Over the past months, Yunji had become not just a colleague but a true friend. She had taken over most of the official research work, documenting the successful integration of different species in Haven. Speaking of Hu Yan, where is he today? Yunji asked. Teaching the young ones about forest plants, Nara said. Both human children and Valkyrie pups. They learn better when they learn together. It was true. One of the most successful parts of Haven was the mixed education program. Human children learned Valkyrie hunting skills and forest wisdom. Valkyrie pups learned human science and technology. All of them learned that being different was not something to fear, but something to celebrate. Tae-Ho approached them, carrying a datapad filled with reports. As the elected leader of the new settlement, he worked closely with both human and Valkyrie representatives to keep Haven running smoothly. Good news, he said. The stellar people have agreed to establish a trading post here. They want to learn more about our integration project. And bad news? Nara asked, recognizing the expression on his face. Bjorn has been gathering followers. From other packs, he spread stories about Haven being a place of corruption and weakness. Some packs are starting to listen to him. This was not unexpected. Change always faced resistance, especially from those who benefited from the old ways. But it was still concerning. How many packs support him? Yunji asked. 3 so far, maybe 4. but the good news is that 5 other packs have sent representatives to learn more about what we are doing here. Progress was slow but steady. Each month brought new challenges, but also new victories. Young Valkyrie who were tired of rigid pack rules came to Haven seeking a different way to live. Human researchers arrived, wanting to study the successful integration. Traders from various races stopped by to see this unusual settlement where cooperation seemed to actually work. Jin gurgled happily and reached toward a colorful bird that landed nearby. The bird, instead of flying away, perched on her tiny finger and chirped a greeting. This kind of thing happened often around Jin. Animals and even plants seemed drawn to her gentle presence. She will be special, Teho observed. She already is, Naru replied. Not because she is different, but because she is loved by so many different kinds of people. That evening, as the 3 moons rose over Haven, the community gathered for their weekly sharing circle. It had become a tradition where anyone could speak about their experiences, their hopes, or their concerns. Hyan stood up first, as he often did. I came to this moon to study life, he said to the mixed crowd of humans, Valkyrie, and others. I thought I would learn about plants and animals and weather patterns. Instead, I learned about courage. He looked at Nara, who sat holding Jin near the fire. I learned that one person, willing to show kindness, can change everything. That speaking someone's true name can give them back their hope. That love is stronger than fear, even when fear has ruled for thousands of years. A young Valkyrie pup raised her hand. Will Jin teach us things when she gets bigger? I think Jin will teach us many things, Hyun replied. But the most important thing she teaches us just by being here. That different can be beautiful. That mixing different strengths makes everyone stronger. An elderly human scientist spoke. Next, my government sent me here to study alien cultures. They wanted reports about weaknesses and potential threats. Instead, I am sending reports about possibilities and potential partnerships. One by one, others shared their stories. A former Red Claw warrior talked about learning to build houses instead of just preparing for fights. A human child described teaching a Valkyrie pup how to read human writing. A trader from the Crystal Wing people explained how Haven had given him hope that the galaxy could become more peaceful. When the sharing circle ended, people drifted away to their homes. But Nara, Hyan, Yunji and Teho stayed by the fire with little Jin. Do you think it will last? Nara asked. This peace we have built. Nothing lasts forever, Hyan said thoughtfully. But what we have started here will spread. Other places will try to copy what we have done. Some will fail, but others will succeed. Each success makes the next one easier. Jin made soft baby sounds and waved her tiny hands at the stars. In the firelight, her fur sparkled like captured sheen. She will see a different galaxy than we did, Yunji said. One where being different is normal. Where cooperation is expected instead of surprising. I hope so, Nara said, stroking her daughter's soft fur. I want her to grow up in a world where she never has to hide what she is. Teho stood up and stretched. Tomorrow, we start building the new school. Big enough for 100 children. From a dozen different races, that seems like a good step toward the world we want Jin to inherit. As they prepared to go to their homes, a message light blinked on Yunji's communication device. She read it quickly, then smiled. What is it? Heian asked a message from the Galactic Council. They want to send an official delegation to study our settlement. They are considering using Haven as a model for other integration projects across the galaxy. The friends looked at each other in amazement. What had started as one human trying to save one dying wolf had grown into something that might change the entire galaxy. Jin Nara whispered to her sleeping daughter, "You are going to grow up in interesting times." Above them, the 3 moons shone down on Haven, where the impossible had become ordinary, where fear had given way to hope, and where a child born of 2 worlds had become a symbol of what all worlds might achieve together. In the distance, a wolf howled, but it was not a howl of loneliness or anger. It was a howl of joy, calling to the stars and promising that tomorrow would be better than today. Other voices joined the howl. Human voices, Valkyrie voices, and voices from races that had never sung together before. They created a harmony that had never existed in the galaxy before. A harmony that started with one human who chose compassion over fear, and one wolf who refused to let hope die. A harmony that would echo across the stars for generations to come.